Recently, the Equestrian World team visited Mount St John Equestrian, a stud farm in Yorkshire who specialise in the breeding of dressage mares.
So Mount St John, I started when I finished my university studies, and the aim of it was to really bring top bloodlines into the UK. And so I spent a lot of time travelling around the main parts of Europe, especially the key dressage nations, which are typically Germany, Denmark and Holland, and really researching the bloodlines and the dressage sport. I decided to really focus on the mares because I noticed historically then any of the best mares had to choose between either going into the sport or going into the breeding, and I thought that was a shame that the top stallions had the opportunity to do both at the same time, where they could go all the way to the Olympics and combine that with a breeding career.
An integral part of Emma's job is researching bloodlines to find suitable matches for her competition mares.
A big part of any breeder and their role is to really, I think, be very critical and evaluate your own mares or your own stock. And the further we train them, the easier it is to really see the strengths and weaknesses. But that's something that we try and be very honest and look at for all of them. And then we try and choose the stallions that we think best complement that individual mare.
Once Emma has decided on a stallion, the semen is ordered, the chosen mare is artificially inseminated, and then an embryo flush takes place.
So mare's in season for approximately 7 days in every 3 weeks, and in that time there'll be a very small window when it's optimal for breeding. With the embryo transfer program, the mares are then programmed for an embryo flush. In the case of frozen semen, we routinely flush the mares 8 days post-ovulation. With the chilled semen, we routinely flush the mares 7 days post-ovulation. The donor mares, we can perform embryo flush after embryo flush. So once the mare is flushed, she's then administered a prostaglandin, which then sort of, if you like, short cycles her, stops the cycle where it is. We're removing the embryo from the donor mare before she even knows herself that she's pregnant.
In terms of the recipients, that's a really big part of what we do here, which is probably what's quite different to most stables. So not only do we have the mares that we produce the embryos from, but we also run our own recipient herd, which is normally around 50 mares. And those we try to get a similar mare as possible to the donor. So we're looking for warm bloods, we're looking for mares, their optimum age for fertility is probably between 4 and 10 years old. So ideally within that age range. We use embryo transfer to allow this whole barn of competition horses, which are all mares, to continue and have a competition career whilst they also breed. And for us, the chance to more quickly go through a couple of generations by the use of embryo transfer means that we can be faster in our development of the bloodlines and of the genes. Everything happens here, so we deliver the foals here on site. They're born in our foaling unit, and then from a few days old, then they start to be turned out, weather permitting, and they go in the nursery paddock, so we have smaller paddocks to start with, and then once they've progressed from the smaller paddocks, they get paired up and go into 2s and 3s in the next stage paddock, where there's a few of them together.
The foals are weaned away at 5.5 months and spend their first few years of development out in the fields.
So this is all of the 2-year-old mares, and they're obviously now starting to look more like horses. And yeah, you can really see, I think, the growth that they go through from the foal to the 2-year-old stage. And again, we just keep the fillies together. So this is all the 2-year-old mares. And from next year at 3, they'll be old enough to start training under saddle and to start breeding. And at this stage, they're just having a lovely time growing up in the field.
Despite having only been in operation since 2012, Mount St John already has an impressive selection of competition horses.
The oldest we have in our stables here that's training from the Mount St John born foals is Top Secret, who we saw doing the embryo flush. and she's now 8 years old, doing the Prix St George, and she's showing a lot of talent for the Grand Prix as well, so we're very excited about her for the future. I think obviously one of the most exciting ones is freestyle. She's in fact the first foal I bought, and she was to go as a companion together with our first embryo transfer foal that we bred. And obviously freestyle won last year the bronze medal in the World Games, so that was very exciting in her first year of Grand Prix. And very much our aim with her is to Tokyo for the British team, and hopefully another medal would be very nice. And at the same time we are looking to do a lot with the breeding, so we have 2 daughters from freestyle here who are both involved with the breeding. Other mares we have are such as Diva Dannebrog, who was very successful with Natasha Baker in the World Games. Natasha approached me because she didn't have a horse for the Games, and so we cooperated with that for the season, and within months they were the top of their world ranking for their division of the Para Games, and won silver at the finals. I think there's a lot of years to go yet, and there's always lots to learn with anything to do with breeding and training. No one's ever got 100%, and so as a breeder and a trainer, a raiser of horses, we're always looking for that edge of what we can do that gets another 1 or 2% in any of those aspects. And so yeah, hopefully we'll keep inching the scores up and performing better and better throughout the grades, and with lots of horses and getting lots of medals in the future.